G'day mates, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I have a Benjyfishy solo VOD review from how he won the EU FNCS qualifiers in week 2. I want to do these stacked VOD reviews because I know that even though 99.9% of you guys aren't going to play in lobbies this stacked, there is so much you can learn from them, especially from Benjyfishy, and they're just fun to VOD review. Honestly, today's video is one of my most interesting with things that I go into. I try to talk about different stuff to what I've talked about in my last VOD reviews. Benjyfishy is doing so much right, and you need to start learning from him. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below who you want me to VOD review next. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, post notifications on. We're smashing out videos like this every 2 days, so I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you enjoy this video. One thing that I think Benjyfishy is doing almost better than any other player is using his crash pads. I've talked about crash pads so much on this channel, you guys are probably getting overhearing it, but I honestly think they are the strongest item in the game right now behind the caddy launcher. So here we see this is his 6th game of the day. It's his last game of the tournament to clutch up and win. He has 6 crash pads and it's going down a massive mountain. So you'll notice there, off the high ground, he uses the crash pad, not his launch pad. He is saving his launch pad for when the zone levels out so he can go horizontally further, or he can go higher if he needs to go back up on top of the mountain, but he's using his crash pads to get down off this mountain. That crash pad, nothing fancy, put up the stair through the crash pad. Gets a really nice rocket elimination here by knocking down Wave. It's this next crash pad that I want to highlight, and it's nothing too insane, but it's the foresight he has. See right there, he looks up, he identifies where the builds are above him because he knows he's going to crash pad, and what he does is, instead of setting up a stair crash pad, see how he went to do a stair, but he thought, hey, if I do a stair, I'm going to go straight into those builds. So what does he do? He edits a Dorito, so he gets each corner on that, corner of the cone. He sets up the diagonal edit. So now when he throws his crash pad, he goes diagonally. He goes off to the side. He flies straight through air. He doesn't hit any builds. He goes exactly to front side of zone. And it's such a clean little difference in how he uses his crash pad that other people are doing, but in endgame, so many other players are panicking. Now, the zone is leveled out here. He's gotten down the verticality of the mountain. So now he uses his short launch. Short launches to the side, takes a single tick, and then goes straight to front side. That would have cost him at least 2 crash pads and would have been a lot sketchier. So use your crash pads to get down off high verticality to the bottom, and then use your launch pad when you want to go more horizontal, or if you want to go higher. Say you want to crash launch pad up and take high ground, or maybe you want to get on top of a mountain. How you use your crash pads, especially in the end game, and not panicking and realizing the angles that you can go, is going to be so much more important for how you play and how many mats you can save and how much safer you are. So now he's still got 3 crash pads, and like I'm going to talk about later in this video, 3 crash pads endgame for Benjyfishy is huge. He uses these to get so many refreshes, it's ridiculous. Every single one counts. He's still using them to go across. Now he uses it to go straight down to ultimate low because he's got 0 builds he needs to get down. Tries to go into the player's box. Unfortunately, they counter it, and then he goes around the edges. Now, Benjyfishy at this point is completely shambles. He gets 1 refresh, which is just huge. That's just Benjyfishy being Benjyfishy. Now, this is where I want to start to touch on the confidence Benjyfishy has. Let's identify his loadout right here. He has 6 builds left to his name. It's not a lot, but with only, 5 players alive? With only, 9 players left and 6 eliminations in his final game of the game. Final game of the tournament, sorry. He needs to get high points here to win this tournament. He is in first place. He has the confidence to not just think, hey, I'm going to play these 6 builds out. He goes in, straight into this box, phases in, and gets the shotgun shot. It's having that confidence. Zate has summed it up best. His rule is, do you have the loadout you need to win the game? No? Then you need to go for a refresh. Don't just play it out trying to get to like maybe top 5, or don't try and play it out getting to top 10 or top 25. You need to play with the confidence if you're going to win a tournament or if you're going to place that you can win this game. If you don't have the loot to win the game now, refresh, get in someone's box, and go for the elimination. Have that confidence. Now, from here, Benjyfishy unfortunately gets a little bit screwed by the caddy launcher. It's almost how he loses every single game, but I want to touch on that. How to use your crash pads endgame, and then having the confidence to go for refreshes, not just sticking to what you have and trying to play passive and just kind of wrapping around the builds until eventually someone finds you and kills you. I want to show 2 ways that Benjyfishy gets his refreshes endgame and shows off how ridiculously confident he is as a player. And almost always it's using crash pads. This first one is anyway. So there's two things about this play. One, the fact that Benyfishy doesn't even need this refresh. His loadout is not that bad. If anything, it's pretty damn good. 467 wood, 253 brick, 150 metal. The only thing he's missing is those hard mats, maybe extra bit of metal, but he's still got 3 crash pads. But he sets up next to this player near endgame. He kind of susses out what they're doing. He gets as much information on them as he can as possible because he wants to know exactly what's going on in there. Starts looking to hold a few players, looks around what's going on, can't see anything. And this is where Benjyfishy's genius comes in. He knows the player's next to him. He shoots the cone. The reason why he shoots the cone is to either force the player down into the box if they're in the cone, or to see if they're in the cone so he can make it more visible. And then look at this. Checks, all right, player's going down from the cone, he sees the little edit. What does he do? Gets out the crash pad, throws it on the corner, just goes straight in and hits 2, 3 beautiful tack shots. So again, he sets up for it perfectly. It's not just an easy crash pad in, but he gets information. He pushes the player underneath and he crash pads into a fully built base of metal. This player had absolutely no idea Benyfishy was coming for him because it was through full metal. But he didn't just jump in the box. Imagine it was like another play. He just jumped in the box, didn't check whether the guy was in the cone, gets in the box, and where's the player? Oh, he's in the roof. And these are the kind of things you need to think about. And this is the things that win tournaments. It's just little refreshes like that now Benyfishy is 5-5-5 with 5 crash pads. This example is more just reacting to the situation in front of you, but again, it shows Benyfishy's confidence here. Look at the loadout. Again, it's even better than last game. He has 6 crash pads, 4 chug splashes, 6 minis, almost max mats. He doesn't need anything this game. So originally he tries to set up for the rotate. Things get a little bit scuffed, and then we're just going to see how confident Benyfishy is on refreshes. So goes to hit the crash pad off a Dorito cone again because he wants to go diagonally. Just randomly doesn't go anywhere. Hits the player twice and chases them down. It might not be much. I know again he's hit him twice and it's like, oh, of course he'd go for the refresh. But a lot of pro players in this situation wouldn't. They don't technically need it. Sets up next to him, gets the crash pad out, hooks straight through the corner of the box, and in he goes. This player has no idea. It wasn't as clean as the last one, obviously, but still, it's the confidence to go for those refreshes and get the elimination just off a couple of tags. The crash pad refresh right now is everything in the game. It's why when you guys ask me what's better, peppers or crash pads, I have to say crash pads. It is insane what you can do with them. The thing that I think Benyfishy does so well here, and it sounds so insanely stupid, is nothing. I've sped this video up to 2 times speed just so I can not take up too much time in the video to show you how long Benyfishy just spends sitting in his cone gathering information. He's just sitting here looking at everything going on around him. Where is everybody going? Where are they moving? What's zone doing? Too many pro players I see having like ADD, or they just can't sit still. They're opening window edits, they're opening door edits, they're taking shots, they're jumping in their cone, jumping out of their cone, making a whole bunch of noise and doing a whole bunch of nothing that is just making them louder and lets everyone know where they are. And if you're opening edits, you're letting people spray you or focus you. He is just sitting in a cone, looking around, gathering information, doing nothing. There's no heavy snipers in the game anymore, and it's solos. So sitting in your cone is one of the safest places you can be. No one can heavy snipe the cone, and you don't have a teammate to be able to 3-2-1 spray through the cone either. Oh, yes. So he gets to just sit here now, and he cops zone, and again, he's just sitting here, just safe right now. He doesn't have to worry about storm surge. He doesn't need to be doing too much. Sometimes, if you're in a good position, sit in your cone and gather information. And now I'm going to show you why gathering information is so important, especially endgame. So let's look at Benyfishy's situation here. There's 47 alive, he has no mobility, and he has a far rotating zone. You have a few options here. You can start making the quick rotate, hit the legs and try and rotate around the outside. Or, again, what Benyfishy does best is gets information. He looks around, he susses out what's around him. Okay, I've got a crash pad beneath me, there's players, but see that? That tiny little bit of a flicker? There's a player in the cone, and Benyfishy identifies that. And if this guy's in the cone and he's not moving, he has mobility. He hasn't gone yet. He has something. So there it is, runs out, drops the cone. Sorry, drops the launch pad. Benyfishy identified based on getting information of what was going on around him, and now this rotate is so much easier. I talk in a lot of my videos about don't wait for other people to have mobility, start moving early, but that rotate was going to be absolutely brutal from Benyfishy, and he knew someone was in that cone, and he knew they had some kind of mobility because they spent so long. Unfortunately, if you're playing opens or semis and you're in this similar situation, sometimes people sit in a cone hoping that you have the mobility, but you'll notice that Benjyfishy made himself a little bit visible. The guy couldn't shoot him, but he was standing there with the open wall like, are we going? What's happening? Like, what are you doing, right? You need to be aware of who has mobility around you to save you having to make the running rotate if you don't need to, but it's also quite a skill to kind of have to know when the people around you are just waiting for you to have mobility too. So you'll get better as you do it more often. Try to move if you think it's at all possible, but if you're in insanely stacked games like this, try to identify who has mobility around you. Try to identify, was there an airdrop that came nearby? Try to identify if they've already used a couple crash pads, assuming they probably have some more. Things like that. Gather information. When you're sitting in your cone and you're doing nothing like Benjyfishy, look for information. Where are the big bases? Where did everybody rotate? What's congested side? Where is the elevation? Try to get as much information as you can before you rotate so you don't have to think of it on the rotate. I wanted to talk about how Benjyfishy learnt throughout the tournament. So Slurpy Swamps, obviously being a newer drop at the moment because the water levels have just dropped far enough to have it show, Benjyfishy in game 3 has his worst game of the tournament so far. And what happens is he takes a lot of early game fights, a lot of early game scraps. As you can see, he gets an elimination here in Slurpy Swamps and he takes a while to rotate. He doesn't get into first zone until 12 minutes into the game. Again, if you ever want to check this out, guys, this is just the battle map. Go into tournament replays yourself and click the number 6 on your keyboard. It will show this. Basically, what it's showing is the fact that Benjyfishy dropped. He just did a lot, basically. He stayed in Slurpy Swamps way too long. He makes his rotate, only gets in, like I said, at about 11 or 12 minutes in, and then has to rotate through Salty, and then he gets held a lot here. I'm not going to show the whole game, but basically he spent way too long before he rotated, so it ended up getting him an elimination early, but ended up costing him a lot more later. He came in on congested side. He had to rotate straight through Salty Springs. He gets held a lot, and it causes him a lot of issues. He could have got held a lot more if you go back and watch the game, but Benjyfishy specifically identifies in this game, if you go back and watch his Twitch VOD, that he took too long in the early game. And now I'm going to show you the difference in what happens in game 4 and how he handles a far north zone, and he learns throughout the tournament on what didn't work. So now we're looking at game 4, and already you can see the zone is even more difficult. It goes far, far north, but look at this. At the same point that took him 12 minutes to get to last time, Benjyfishy got there in 7.5 minutes. He got down, he looted, he didn't fight anyone, and he rotated much, much quicker. So he gets to here at about 7 minutes 30. So he gets into this zone, which is already so much further north, in less than 3.5 minutes. And honestly, that might not sound like much, but that is huge. Benjyfishy identified, even in FNCS finals, something that went wrong in game 3, and he fixed it for game 4. Unfortunately, he makes a bit of a mistake where he goes down earlier than he should have, and he doesn't get as many points, but it's not because of his loop pathing and his rotation. This time it was due to something in endgame. And that's what you need to do. Again, you can VOD review like this after your tournaments if you want, but even doing it throughout your tournament, just looking to see what you can improve on. Last game, I left Misty Meadows, I took too long, I went through Lazy Lake and I got held. Or I rotated from Misty Meadows, I went way too close to caddy corners and I ran into the Shockwave player. Things like that. There's things you can learn from throughout the tournament to change your gameplay. And Benjyfishy does it so well. Because we're on the topic of learning from mistakes, I want to just go really quickly through 2 mistakes that unfortunately cost Benjyfishy's 4th game. Like I said earlier, this game he learned from his mistakes on rotates. He rotates earlier, but in the end game he makes 2 crucial mistakes that I want you guys to learn from. And again, I need to point out, obviously, Benjyfishy, absolute GOAT, one of the best players in the world. I'm not at all trying to say that I know more than him, I'm better than him. It's just from this, we can learn from these mistakes. And I'm sure Benjyfishy, as he recommends my videos, would want you guys to learn from them as well. So here in the end game, Benjyfishy's trying to find his refresh. He needs a bit more brick, he needs a bit more metal, and he has no mobility. So he starts looking around for it, starts opening up to go for some shots, but it's when he goes for his refresh, there's a little bit of a mechanical issue that I want to touch on. And again, guys, I'm going to start introducing learning from mistakes a little bit more in my videos, but this one's a good one. So he tries to knock this player down. He goes to chop him out because he knows he's inside the floor. So what happens is this player's got the stair there. So right now he can't piece control the stair, but the issue is he didn't piece control this square here. Remember, when I say piece control, I mean controlling the builds around the fight. If he'd put a cone here or even a stair and edit it, that player would not have been able to throw that stair through. And now Benjyfishy loses the elimination because the time spent to break the stair that was in front of him lets the player get out of the box. So if he had a cone here and this player dropped down, that stair never would have been in Benji's face and he could have easily got that refresh, and he'd be looking really good for the end game now. Just something to focus on. Piece control doesn't only happen in early and mid game fights, it happens end game too. Try to avoid fighting on a flat at all costs. It just gives up a piece that you need control of. The second mistake that Benjyfishy makes is this very same game. He hasn't got the refresh. Right now it's all good. He's sitting in his cone, he's looking for info, he's looking for the refresh. He drops down, starts opening up some walls to take some shots. Right now this is fine. He's in a fully built hard metal base. He's opened up one wall to look through. This is okay. This is very normal. You can focus on that one wall. The issue comes when now he opens up all 3 walls. So right now he has opened up every single wall in his base, and because of that we now see Merrin come just hooking straight through his wall. He's frustrated, he's tilted, he has been tilted this game. That issue came about because he opened up the edits on all of his walls and he didn't pay attention to the wall behind him. So because it was refreshing in durability, because he just edited it, Merrin just hooks straight through the wall and kills him. Audio in this game, Endgame, is very, very difficult. You can't tell where people are, you don't know what's going on. So you need to make sure that you only open walls that you can then focus on in front of you. Otherwise, you open up to exploits like that. It's the same reason why you need to wait for your metal and brick to full build when you're endgame before you start going for peaks. It's too easy to spray through and it's too easy to exploit in on. All right, guys, that does it for another video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Again, if you did like the video and you made it this far, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below as well. Anyone you want me to VOD review next, any topics you need help with, anything you want me to cover. And if you haven't already, please subscribe with post notifications on. It would mean the world to me, and I'll see you in the next video.